All right, guys, welcome to another episode. I'm Orlando.
And I'm Omar,
We're the Smart Bros.
and this is the Smart Take.
All right, y'all, we're back, and this is going to be episode 14. We just had that great win over the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, we both saw it coming. It was a very good game. We defense completely shut them out. Offense got pretty much whatever it wanted for the most part. I mean, I don't really have too many complaints. So we're gonna go back over that game as well as preview our upcoming game against the Buffalo Bills. But before we go to Buffalo, what are your thoughts on Philly? How do you feel the team did against them?
Well, people really thought that I was scared to play the Eagles or thought I was a bit nervous, but if there was, I don't know if I've ever been that sure of the Cowboys to win a game as against quote unquote best team in the league or top three, top five, top whatever you want to call them, team in the league. I've never been sure that we were going to win a game more sure that we were going to win a game than that game right there. Like and people that know me know that I'm not a betting man. I don't bet on like prize picks, any of that. I don't even like to bet because I'm very cheap. I love my money, so I don't even like risking it. I bet $70 on that game. With that being said, there was two people that are not even Eagles fans, so I don't even know what that was about. It was literally just people that are Cowboys haters. My roommate Pump, my homeboy Q. So shout out y'all because that's charity money at that point because y'all were literally just gifting me money. So shout out y'all because like I said, I was never even a ounce of scaredness or nervousness going into that game. I knew through and through that we were going to win that. And I knew that we were never even going to struggle winning that game. And winning 33-13 is a testament of you are a better team than them. They can't claim it's like a fluke or I saw some tweets that said we were just happy that we didn't get swept. No, y'all should be happy y'all didn't get swept because we're gonna get into that. But we're gonna dive into a little bit more. So first, let me just give my predictions. I said Dak for 295 and three touchdowns. He had 271 and two touchdowns. I feel like he could have had some more, but it is what it is. We feel like we only got field goals in the second half, so it is what it is. But we like you said earlier, we got everything we pretty much wanted. They really couldn't stop us, and they couldn't stop us last game either. Honestly, I thought Seed would have 80 yards and a touchdown. He had 71 and a touchdown, so I wasn't too far off. I thought Cooks would have 55 and a touchdown. He only had 37 yards, but MG had a solid game, had 46 yards, had 48 yards and a touchdown. I thought we'd have a tight end touchdown. Didn't have a tight end touchdown, but Jake Ferguson, he led our team in receiving yards with 72 yards, which is one over CD. And he had another big game, had another hurdle. I think we're gonna need him coming up big this week against the Buffalo Bills. So he definitely emerged as one of my favorite Cowboys for sure. He's just a tough guy. For the most part, other than the beginning of the season, he's been pretty sure-handed, and I think he's going to be big for us down the stretch. Because whenever I say a tight end touchdown, I might as well just say a Jake Ferguson touchdown. Because at this point, he's become Dak's our second favorite target, and rightfully so. That's he's become Dak's Jason Witten for Tony Romo. So and I like that duo. I thought TP would have 50 yards and a touchdown. He had 59 yards. He didn't have a touchdown, but Rico had 46 as a touchdown. And I'm liking that 1-2 punch. I think TP got 16 carries. Rico got 12 or 13. I like that we're going back to that 1-2 punch. Because I'm not, even though I'm not that big on the run because we haven't had big run games so far, if that's how we're going to run with the 1-2 punch, I like that. I don't like running TP just up the middle. Have him run our outside runs. And then once we get Rico in, he could do a little bit mixture of both. That's where our bread and butter came from the last couple of years when we had TP and Zeke had a mixture of both. So I'm a big fan of that. And Mike McCarthy's play calling within the run game. I thought Mike would have a sack and a half. He only had one sack, which ended up being our only sack of the game because I thought we'd have three, but it is what it is. I thought we'd have a pick just because feel like we could have baited Jalen Hurts into some things, but they pretty much don't even let him throw. I feel like unless it's like he'll get the occasional deep ball or but mostly slants for him. Comeback routes. I thought we would force one fumble. We forced three, and people could be like, "Oh, that's not likely." If you say that, you're a liar because we forced 3 last game. But the difference between this game and last game is those 3 fumbles in that first game, they recovered all of them. And these 3 fumbles, we recovered all of them. And I'm not even saying that you're going to recover every single fumble, but it's the fact that we didn't recover any in that first game. And I'm not going to say that's the exact reason we lost, but it was a very big reason, 100%. It just kind of was a testament of how that game get a matter of how the ball rolled that game. And I told every single fumble we got, I tweeted, the ball is not gonna always roll your way, and it didn't. And that's why not the reason they lost, but it's the reason that we blew them out like we did. But I think we're a better team than them through and through. But it is what it is. I thought we went 35-24. We ended up winning 33-13. So we won by 20. I definitely knew we would win by double digits, but I didn't know we would beat them by 20 and our defense absolutely shut them all off. So their only scores were what was it? They gave the fumble recovery touchdown that Dak, it wasn't it happens sometimes. He hadn't had a turnover in a while. So, and the only thing about that, a fumble recovery touchdown. What are you saying?
That's Dak's first fumble loss all season.
All season, all season. Hey, don't get me wrong, sucks it happened, but the best thing about a pick six or a fumble recovery touchdown, your offense gets right back on the field. We went right back down, got some points back on the board, and yeah, and then they got some field goals. But in terms of Jalen Hurts, their running backs, receivers, no touchdowns from them. So our defense did a excellent job on them. But so like overall, I get that an A game. I would give it an A plus, but like Dak said, he felt like he could have played a little bit better, and if he did, we would have put up 50. But see, his bad game is 270 and 2 touchdowns or mediocre games. That's just a testament to how he's playing. In my eyes, the MVP of the league, and because Jalen Hurts throws 270 and 2 touchdowns, that's a great game for him in my eyes. But how do you feel?
I mean, you kind of touched it on right on the head. Some of the things you said about the fumbles. I'm just happy about this game because exactly what I said was gonna happen happened. I mean, like you said, the fumbles. I've been in literal screaming matches for weeks, yelling about how that win that the Eagles got over us was not indicative of who the better team was.
At all.
People aren't. There's literally no way people are even arguing genuinely if they believe that. If they believe that in a game where we were one stopped on the half-yard line, Dak stepped out of bounds.
Without getting pushed out of bounds, by the way, just happened to step out.
And then even with all that, still had a play on the very last play of the game that would have got if had we got in the end zone, we would have won. And CD was at the 2-yard line. And I just don't understand. I don't understand how. I mean, if you could look at that game, and that's why I think I said they're not being genuine when they're arguing, because at that point you're just kind of literally discrediting everything that happened and solely looking at who won the game. And I feel like
100%.
I feel like the way you win games absolutely matters. And that's a big thing people are trying to downplay right now. They're saying, oh, us blowing out teams doesn't matter because they're bad teams. But that's not true. If two really good teams play a bad team and one of them just barely wins and the other one blows them out, the team that blew them out is the better team. If two teams play each other, one team barely gets the win and the other team wins by 20 points. That team is better. Like you said, everything wasn't going to bounce their way. And not only were the fumbles bouncing their way in the first game, the refereeing was a bit lopsided in this game. And even if you want to counteract that because people are like the Scooter Magruder said on his video after the game is, oh, now you want to talk about the refs. And that was exactly that. There were so many plays. I was literally, because after the first game, we lost to the Eagles. There were plays that were questionable calls for us. But what happened was the exact penalty disparity. There were the exact same number of penalties called on the Eagles and the Cowboys. So people were like, oh, it was even. No, again, that's a simple-minded way of looking at a game. Just because 10 penalties are called on both teams doesn't mean that those penalties were equal. Doesn't mean those penalties had the same effect on the game. And so, but
100%.
because we lost, I was told that, oh, you can't blame the refs, you can't bring up the refs, that's irrelevant, you got to win anyway. But in a game that they lost by 20 points, there were calls that people want to bring up, and even still, I can still, and that was the thing, they were calling it, they were saying it was even, and so I was like, well, I can name you at least 5 different plays that went against us. That either should have been called, shouldn't have been called, that directly hurt us, and you can maybe to every maybe one, maybe two play that you can name, and then it's the exact same thing in this game. If you can find some plays that show me that the game was called in favor of us, I can show you just as many. But in the first game, they couldn't do that, and so I feel like right now the Eagles are definitely in some trouble. I think with the losing 2 games in a row, and I would say this is a must
Not
win.
even just losing,
But
getting
yeah,
smacked 2 games in a row
exactly.
by the best two teams in the league.
That's the thing. Nick Bosa said it. He said that he gave us the blueprint and he hoped we could follow, and that's exactly what we did. We didn't rush the whole house. We rushed 4 a lot of times, dropped everyone back out in coverage, and made Jalen Hurts beat us. And like you said, all his routes, slants, comebacks, short routes, and that provides his receivers with the best opportunity to make plays. But then once they were getting the ball, our defense were the one making plays. That's another thing I definitely want to touch on because people are like, "Oh, the fumbles aren't." Even if you want to say them fumbling
We
3 times,
forced those fumbles.
exactly. Every single one of those fumbles was
Punch out.
punched
Rip
out,
out.
ripped out, made those do. I mean, and they wasn't even. And there was another. I saw people saying that they were being careless with the ball. No, Devontae Smith, he literally went down to protect the ball, and it still got punched out. I don't understand how you can look at that game and discredit the Cowboys in any way.
And what's crazy is Dak's fumble was, if y'all want to say that we were being careless, that's the only fumble that was even careless. He didn't
Absolutely.
get, it's not like they hit it out his hand. It kind of on the way to the ground, he ended up it fall out of his hand. And it is what it is. They
And
didn't like they forced that, but they didn't really force that, not like we did.
exactly. And because on all of theirs, there was Jalen's was a QB run, and we ended up getting it out. He had ran for, I think it would have been a first down, so he ran for some
Oh
yards.
yeah, for sure.
BJ's was for, run after the catch, and Devontae Smith was after the catch. So it's like we know even if they didn't fumble on those plays, they would have been down, and it would still been their ball. On Dak's fumble, if you watch the all 22, he had he was buying time for Brandon Cooks to get open because he had his man beat for a touchdown. If Dak had a second or two more to throw that ball, that's a touchdown. So I just feel like when you look at if you actually look at the details, do even if because it'd be very easy for us to say, oh, we're better than them. We won. That's the end all be all. But no, the way we won, it shows that we're the better.
100%.
And so
No, yeah, I definitely agree.
getting into my predictions, I predicted that Dak would throw for 320 and 4 touchdowns. He ended up throwing for he ended up throwing for 271 and 2 touchdowns. And like you said, and like he said, he definitely felt like he could have had a much better game, which I agree with. There were throws. I wouldn't there were throws that he just we wish he could have had back. There were just maybe some play calling here and there, but there were just some decisions that I feel like he said, he didn't play his absolute best game, and we could have scored 50 had
And
he.
I feel like we got a little less aggressive in the second half because once you're playing by up, you don't. I feel like that's how people let people back in the game by just trying to throw it all game. And it's like we're still gonna throw it, but we're not just gonna throw it every single play till you get that's where you get some drops going or and that gets the clock stopped. So it's like, you want to keep the clock going, running all half. And then when you have a kicker like Brandon Aubrey, you're pretty much in field goal range from the moment you cross the 50.
Exactly. Definitely want to give him a giant shout out, man. We've touched on it before in past episodes, but if there could be any like position of the team that I was completely blindsided me, it was absolutely Brandon Aubrey.
Man.
And because it's not like I just thought he was going to be the worst kicker in the league, but
But it's
he
like, who is he?
we didn't know what we were going to get from him. He hadn't
Mm-mm.
NFL before. He hadn't even much played football in his career. He was a soccer player, and so the fact that he's performing like this, 30 for 30 on field goals, like he has missed 2 extra points. The very first one he kicked, and then I don't remember which
No,
game.
he missed 3 extra points. One was blocked. He missed one, and then he missed two or
Yeah,
something. But I think another one got tipped as well. But those are extra points. I mean, don't get me wrong. I always want the point, but I've gotten to a point where I haven't felt this way since Dan Bailey,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
I felt like we were cursed from the moment we let Dan Bailey go, just because we didn't have to. Because that man, that guy was so sure-legged, and I'm just so glad we have a kicker where I can feel comfortable. Like, I feel like if we don't score a touchdown, at least we got 3.
Oh,
I haven't felt like this in a long time.
and I think that's another thing that's kind of being that I'm hearing about the Cowboys is just oh y'all kicked the 4 field goals. It's like, do you guys think that NFL offenses score touchdowns every single drive?
If
Because
you look at who scores the most points in the league, it's a kicker every year, by the way.
yeah,
So,
I don't. I'm
it's
very. I just. Because I've literally had people tell me that our offense isn't all that right now. The number one offense in the NFL isn't
mm,
isn't too. I shouldn't be like.
the MVP front runner right now, as
Correct.
well as the like I'll give it to Tyreek's one, but the second best receiver in the league right now as well. Hmm.
It just kind of confuses me. That's why I don't think I one of my go-to like responses to people when it comes to football debates is that they don't watch football. Like there's no way people are watching football across the league. And that's why I also think that when you kind of talk about quarterback rankings, I think a lot of people watch highlights and look at stats and they're not truly watching the Josh Allens, the Justin Herberts, the Trevor
They
Lawrence
can't be.
of
They
the
just see, oh, they broke a record here and there.
Exactly. There's no way y'all are watching these quarterbacks week in and week out if you think that these guys are game changers and Dak isn't. That's a whole that conversation in itself is a thing that we might touch on that, but I just think that what's going on right now, I feel like there's a lot of downplaying on what the Cowboys are doing. But back to my predictions, I predicted that Tony Pollard would have 60 yards and a touchdown. So I almost hit that one right on the head. He had 59 touchdowns. I mean, if he had 59, oh man, 59 touchdowns would be crazy. He had 59 yards, no touchdowns. So we would like to see him get in the end zone a little more. But like you said, they had him and Rico were splitting carries. Rico had 46 yards and a touchdown. I predicted that CD would go for 120 and a touchdown. My receiving predictions were none of them were even that close. CD only had 71 and a touchdown. I predicted that we'd have a tight end touchdown. I don't really predict the yards, so even though Jake Ferguson did lead the team in yards, he didn't score a touchdown, so that kind of throws that prediction completely out of the way. I predicted that Brandon Cooks would have 130 yards and a touchdown. He only had 37 yards, no touchdowns. So like
100 yards off is
yeah,
crazy.
my receiving predictions were completely wrong. I feel like that might be the most wrong either one of us have been all season. And that's
Oh,
even
for sure. I've never been 100 yards off. No
that's even,
chance.
that's even with you underselling. So
Oh, yeah.
I was definitely way off there. I predicted that Michael would have a sack and a half, and he only had 1 sack, and I predicted that we'd have 5 sacks total, only one. So I mean,
So you're not a good guesser. You can't predict right, is what I'm hearing.
this game, I'll take my predictions being wrong if it comes with the 20-point
Oh,
win.
yeah.
So that I can't be too upset with the team. But I thought we'd have I thought we'd have both a safety and a Durham pick. Neither one of those happened, and I thought that we'd force a fumble, and like you said, we forced 3. And my score prediction was pretty close. I predicted that we would win 38-17, and we ended up winning 33-13. So 5 and 4 points off, so less than a touchdown. So I was pretty close with the score, but yeah, my stats were completely all over the place. But like Dak said, our offense could have played better, so that definitely would have helped out those predictions. And like you said, we were playing with the lead in the second half. We were keeping the ball on the ground, just trying to keep that clock running. So overall,
But before we get to the Bills, I want to just shout out Gilly Lock, man. You had a great game. 9 tackles, forced fumble, and honestly, AJ Brown he ended up getting some yards late, but at that point, it's like they're just trying to catch up. So I'm not even really mad at you. But
garbage time
you
yards.
for the good part of the game, AJ Brown was absolutely shut down. There was nothing they could do. Visibly frustrated with Jalen Hurts, as it seems like he is very often. You've seen CD been frustrated one time and hasn't been frustrated since then. You've seen Jalen Hurts and multiple other top receivers, Josh or not Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, be visibly and vocally frustrated with their QBs throughout the whole season. And it's happened multiple times. And I don't know what's going on with those locker rooms. I don't know. It could be from different things, but from the eye test, it looks as if they're not on the same page. And I'm not gonna say that's 100% because of Gilly. It could have been something with them, but Gilly did a great job of getting in his head. He said that he had tried to call him old, and I felt like that poked the bear. And he had his best game all season. I feel like I haven't always given you the most flowers, saying that you seem like you made a loss of step, but he definitely shut the loss of step crowd down that game. And I just wanted to give a big shout out to him before we moved on because he played a great game. And I'm not saying we wouldn't have won without him, but hey man, he's been that's back to back weeks where he's played great against their bigger two bigger receivers even after because we had him we switched him on to DK Metcalf after he had a great first half against Deron Bland. So maybe we just need to have Deron Bland on their faster receivers and then have him Gilly, the more experienced, the former DPOY on their more stronger, bigger receivers.
I agree 100%. Definitely want to give him his flowers for that game. He stepped up gigantically. We needed because I mean, like you said, he's been hearing the things all year about losing a step in that game. AJ Brown called him old, and he shut all of that up. And one thing you said just now was about you don't know what's going on in the locker room, and obviously we're attached to Cowboys Twitter, so that's what our feeds are, and so we see into their locker room a lot more. We see their player interviews a lot more. So I can't really speak on their locker rooms, but the vibes I'm getting from our locker rooms, from our players, I mean, they're at an
Exactly.
all-time high right now. I haven't seen the way they talk about Dak, the way Dak talks to the team, the way when you hear them mic'd up, the just everything I'm hearing from this team. There's nothing that is making me feel that's giving me any worry that this team won't be able to put things together when they need to, that this team won't be a that this team won't be successful because just the way that they're playing, the way that they're gelling, and the way that they're being together is just. I mean, I would think it would be second to none. Like I said, I can't see into their locker rooms as much because I'm not a part of their fan bases, but just from what you see on the sideline, it can't be as cohesive. But that was the preview of that was our recap of the Philadelphia Eagles game. Definitely, I mean, probably up to now biggest win of the season. So I
For sure.
don't want to move past too fast. Definitely just want to bask it. Anytime we beat the Eagles, it's an amazing win. Whether we're fighting for playoff spots, whether we're the worst
We
team in
could be out the playoffs. It don't matter.
and we can lose. We can lose. Obviously, never want this to happen. But if we won two games all year and it was both against the Eagles, I would be like, "Hey, we beat the Eagles. I mean, we
Yeah,
might
beat
like
the Eagles.
obviously say all our players we all got backups, but if we beat those Eagles, that's a successful season to me. I wasn't expecting much, but gonna move on and go into Buffalo. That's gonna be a game in Buffalo. The Bills are a hungry team right now, but I
Yeah,
mean.
they're fighting for their life right now to get into playoffs.
Yes,
It's not gonna be the best conditions.
they're 7-6 right now, but that is only making them a bit hungrier since they are fighting for spots. With the Dolphins losing to the Titans, they still have a chance to win their division. They still have a chance to get that first seed in the AFC East. So definitely don't want to just completely disregard them.
Mm-mm.
And you touched on it. The weather is going to be a little bad. It's not going to be
Like
snowing.
snowing, but
Like
it
yeah,
might be a little bit raining. I know there's supposed to be high wind speeds.
once the schedule was released at the beginning of the season, and then you see, and we look on there, and I saw that we had a Buffalo game, middle of December. I definitely thought it might be snowing, but I mean, obviously, we wish it wouldn't be raining and maybe a little less windy. But these conditions aren't as bad as they could be, so the players are definitely going to have a tough challenge on their hands just for the fact that they're battling the elements of the. But what are your thoughts going into this game?
With the weather being a factor, I just feel like we might try to keep the ball on the ground a little bit more, especially if we had success with the 1-2 punch last game. But I do, and I'll get on. I'll once I say my predictions, I'll say something else. But I think I'll have Dak for 205 and two touchdowns, and that's kind of like a little bit of an undersell as well as the weather mixing in together because clearly he's much more capable of doing that, doing better stats, but. It's just like you never know how much they're gonna throw because of we don't know how much it's raining, don't know how much the wind is gonna take a factor. And we play in a dome, so we're not gonna be 100% used to this, and we haven't had really bad weather all year, so this will be our first true not great weather game. I think TP and Rico will combine for 125 and 2 touchdowns on the ground because, like I said, I feel like we're gonna truly lean on our run game, and I need both of them to have very big games. If we can't end up throwing it like we need to, I think CD will still have 65 yards and a touchdown just because they've been on a streak of giving him a touchdown every game, as he should. He's our number one receiver, and he's currently the second best receiver in the league. So I want him to keep his stats up, keep his touchdowns up, and that way when it comes down to the season, he gets that first team All Pro. Even though I did think he would get second team All Pro, but as if the season in today, he'd be first team All Pro. I think we'd have a tight end touchdown still because Jake Ferguson is still our guy. He's a safety valve for Dak, and I like that. I think Cooks and MG. I say 50, but I really feel like they could combine for 70, but you just never know with how the throwing will be. But before I get to the defense, this game will be a very big testament to prove Cam Newton right or wrong. With that being said, he said Dak Prescott's a game manager, not a game changer, right? Okay. If that's true, we've been winning those games because Dak Prescott has been putting up great stats, even when our defense has not played well at times. Seahawks being a great support for that statement. Now, I will say they played great against the Eagles, so we probably could have still won that game. Maybe, maybe not. But against the Seahawks, defense gave up 30, dang near. What did Dak do? Dak put up 40, dang near. So to say he's not a game changer is absolutely ludicrous to me. And now that we might have to take the ball out of his hands, lean on our running game, lean on our defense, if we lose that game, which I don't think we will, if we lose that game, I feel like that just discredits his game changer narrative completely. Because if that's true, if he is a game manager can just hand the ball off 20, 30 times a game, and we'll still win that game. He only throws 20 times a game, just doesn't turn it over, and we'll win that game, which I don't think we have that kind of team. The team we have is Dak Prescott leads that offense. He throws the ball, and we run when we need to. That's what kind of offense we have. And for Cam Newton to act like he doesn't see that is blasphemy to me. So, don't get me wrong, I want to win by all costs, but if we do have to take the ball out of Dak's hands and we have to run the ball and we don't win, that just throws his whole narrative out the window. And do you agree or disagree? How do you feel about that statement?
First, I want to say how I just want to go on record to say that I can 100% admit that I'm 100% switching up on Cam Newton. He was absolutely my second favorite quarterback of all time before those statements were made. And yes, I will rock because number 4 is my favorite quarterback of all time. So when it comes to Cam Newton, I think that at this point, he's absolutely speaking out of jealousy. He's looking at the guys he named as game managers were Dak Prescott, Tua, Brock Purdy, and Jared Goff. And if you look at these 4 quarterbacks right now, they're playing amazing football. Their teams are pretty successful right now. And while, yes, they all do have pretty good teams around them. But if you look at any quarterback that's ever in the entire history of the NFL had success, Cam Newton included, it was because he had he either had a great defense on the other side of the ball in terms of Cam Newton, they had great weapons, i.e. Joe Burrow and Jalen Hurts, or he's Patrick Mahomes. And even with Patrick Mahomes, we've seen him play a lot worse when his weapons get worse. We've seen him be a lot less successful when he can't throw the ball to Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. Yes, he still won a Super Bowl after losing Tyreek Hill. But this season, his wide receivers have gotten even worse, and his play has declined even more than it did last year. So I think that he said that when he looks at Tua, he thinks of Tyreek Hill. Was that what you thought when Tyreek Hill was in Kansas City? When he looks at the Dallas Cowboys, he thinks about their defense. Well, did people think about your defense when it had multiple All Pros? Was the allowed the fewest points a game and we're completely shutting teams out? Did people think about your defense then when he thinks about Brock Purdy, he thinks about Debo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk. Okay, well, when you think about Joe Burrow, why don't you think about Jamar Chase, T. Higgins? Or when you think about Jalen Hurts, you're not
Joe
thinking about
Mixon.
Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, his offensive line. I feel like to kind of, I think I tweeted about it. I mean, the most perfect clear cut example of a game manager versus a game changer is Cooper Rush versus Dak Prescott. Last year, when Dak Prescott went down, people love to say how, oh, well, Cooper Rush went 4-1 with the Dallas Cowboys when Dak went down. Well, look at how he did it. That's where my point when how you win the game actually matters, especially
Sure.
when you're comparing two specific players. Yes, the win is the overall goal, but if both team wins, then go and look at how each player played. Cooper Rush was winning games barely throwing for over 100 yards, throwing for one touchdown. Our defense was why we won those games. Our offense and Tony Pollard being the focal point of our run game was why we won those games. We were still winning games, yes, but that's the difference between a truck and a trailer. Cooper Rush was being he was being carried to those wins. Dak Prescott is the truck of our offense this year, the truck of our team this year. I mean, I don't understand how like that's why I said it goes back to Cam just being kind of jealous. I feel like he named four quarterbacks that are in some pretty good positions in better situations than he was in for the most of his career. So I'm guessing that he thinks, oh, well, if you give me this, if you would have gave me that, I would have done this, this, and that. It's like, well, when you look at it, you played 11 years, had one successful season, and where in terms of playoff success and only had 3 seasons with a winning record. And so it's like, yes, that doesn't discredit that the good you did in the game, but I don't think that just it completely means everything you say is bond. I don't think that because when a lot of the national media decided to call Cam Newton down on that, and people were like, "Oh, Cam's a MVP, a Super Bowl. He went and made it to the Super Bowl. He can say whatever he wants." Okay, well, Aaron Rodgers won a Super Bowl, has multiple MVPs, and said the exact opposite when talking about Dak Prescott. So it's like you can tell, yeah, you can he's that doesn't Cam Newton is absolutely an MVP. That he absolutely made it to the Super Bowl. He made his team 15-1. That doesn't mean his opinion is correct. That doesn't mean he's just the end all be all of the quarterback conversation. I just think that people use that then people were waiting. They had to wait for a quarterback, and also he was clearly just trying to drive up engagement. He had to. He said when he said it, he said Tua, Brock Purdy, Jared Goff. Waited a little bit, thought about it, was like, "Ooh, how can I get more clicks?" And then threw Dak Prescott's name in the mix. So I feel like that was absolutely just an attention grab. I think it was completely false, and I don't think that
You put
his
somebody on the
resume,
Cowboys in there,
right.
changes your
I don't
force
think his
everything.
resume gives him the credibility to make that statement, to make that a factual statement. It can be his opinion as much as he wants, but that doesn't mean it's not wrong.
And I just know that the Cowboys haters hate how humble and block out the noise Dak is because I feel like they want him to respond so bad. Like
Yeah.
I know for a fact Cam Newton wants him to be like, well, who are you? I mean, yeah, you won your MVP, but what about I've never had a losing season. And I guarantee if Dak was that kind of guy, oh my God, that would just boost his ratings up so much.
Oh,
He's kind of I'm not gonna say he's anything like LeBron, but in terms of he doesn't ever respond to the haters of the world that always say he's trash and the shadies and those kind of guys.
I agree. I don't think he definitely won't respond, but I've actually kind of thought about this. I feel like if we were to win this game and Dak were to be the game changer we know he is, and he act and like that be why we won the game, I absolutely think Dak Prescott will come out in his post game interview and say something like, "I don't know, I think I managed the game pretty well," or something. Like, I could just see it just because this throughout this whole year, while I agree he does take the high road, I feel like he has been a little bit more. I don't want to say sassy, just
Yeah,
that negative comment.
because if
He
you heard him
got
during the
very slightly at some of these reporters sometimes.
especially as if you heard him during the Sounds of the Sideline, they score, stay on their ass. I've
Yeah,
never heard him say that. And then
right.
as well as during the play on this one, he was like, "Yeah, if I played better, we would have had 50." I don't think I've ever heard him say that. And that's just he had the commercial where he was saying he wants to basically shit on the Eagles. Basically, excuse my language, but that's what he basically said on the commercial. So, he's definitely gotten a little bit more vocal, and that just I feel like that just comes with his play, his comfortability with the team, his overall leadership, and I love it. But get back to my predictions. I think Michael will have a sack and a half. I think we'll have 3 sacks overall, just because Josh Allen likes to extend plays. I think we just need to keep everything in front of us, kind of play him like we did Jalen Hurts, just make him make decisions, make him make throws. And I feel like he's been very turnover prone, and not even just this year, his whole career. So I think he'll definitely throw a pick. And I think he'll be trying to, I don't know if he'll be him or somebody else, but I think he'll try to do a little bit too much, and we'll force a fumble. And I think we'll win 28-17. How about you?
So my predictions, I'm thinking that even though I agree 100% that this will be a game where we'll lean on the run game, I think we'll be able to have such a success. I think it'll work well, but I think that it'll open up the pass game and we'll see more of a balanced offense this game. I think that Dak will throw for 310 and 4 touchdowns. And when it comes to rushing, I think we'll have a lot of yards. I don't think we'll score that many rushing touchdowns. I think Tony Pollard will have 85 yards in the touchdown, and that Rico will also run for 70 yards. So I think
Oh,
they'll
so you
come.
think we're gonna have a great offense today?
Oh, I absolutely
That's
believe.
like close to 500 yards, probably.
Yeah, is with Dak going for 320, they get 150 on the ground, so it's like right around right 460. Probably get CD jet sweep in there, probably push that up to around 470. So yeah, total yards, I'm definitely predicting that we're up there. I think that CD will have 115 yards and a touchdown. I think that this is a game where their defense is because I feel like this game kind of really just boils down to I feel like I have a lot more confidence in our offense being able to score on their defense than I do their offense being able to score on our defense. So I don't think their defense is that strong this year. They're even dealing with some injuries. I know Micah Hyde won't be in this game. Von Miller
Tre'Davious White's clearly out for the season. Bob Miller's going
Von
through some
Miller's
stuff
been
right now.
going through legal issues as well as not even having that impactful of a season while he is playing. So I think their defense is definitely their weak point.
Another God, thank God we didn't get.
Yeah, that
No,
absolutely. We would have had to spend an insane bag on him, which who knows
and it
with
doesn't sound like they're getting bang for their buck.
who knows who we wouldn't be able to pay. We just paid Diggs this offseason. They're talking about an extension for Dak, which is well deserved. New contract for CD, well deserved. Micah is coming up, well deserved. So we're definitely in. And when I say that, I mean those are just because the
And
biggest
they're going to be the 3 highest paid at their position.
exactly entire
Well, I don't know about CD, but for sure Dak, especially if he does end up winning this MVP, and clearly Mike is going to be the richest defensive player ever. So,
I even honestly think CD even has a chance because I mean you're only as good as you only get as much as the last guy got, depending on like how much like how
and if
good
he
you are.
does get that first team All Pro like he should,
So
it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard to negotiate down. He's gonna be asking for a lot, unless they take some team friendly deals. But the only
I
person I could see taking a team friendly deal is maybe Dak, because he's already made a lot. But CD and Micah, they just coming. They're still on that rookie deal, man. I
no,
don't know, man.
no that first contract after the rookie deal for a top player in the league. I mean, you got
Except for
I
my dog Diggs, he took a deal.
absolutely he did, but he was and even then, even with taking the deal, he's still a top 10 corner. Or at the time, I think as soon as the next couple guys got paid, it pushed him out of that top 10. So that just goes to show that the caliber of players we have. Once you gotta open that checkbook, Jerry. And obviously there's a salary cap he has to abide by. But for the most part, those guys are definitely going to be deserving of some big contracts. I think that, well, of course, going to have a tight end touchdown. Jake Ferguson, like you said, has been that safety net for Dak, as well as just a stretch in the field. He's been one of the people stretching the field for us. And once he gets in that seam and goes down the field, it's almost automatic. Even when it wasn't being, even when we weren't even executing it to perfection in terms of like having successful plays, it was there, it was open, and we just Dak missed a couple, they dropped a couple, so just the way our tight ends play, we are that's like we say every week. We're always going to predict a tight end touchdown. I think that that's crazy that you combined Cooks and Gallup's yards because I did the exact same thing, and we
Mm.
actually were almost spot on. I think that Cooks and Michael Gallup were combined for 75 yards, and I think that Brandon Cooks will score the touchdown out of them two this season. I mean, not this season, this game. And like I said, you touched on it again as well. The Josh Allen's turnover problem. He's been the absolute leader in turnovers since entering the NFL. And this season has been no different. And I think the way he plays, with this being a must-win game, with our offense having the ability to get up and not be stopped by their defense, I think he'll have a Superman effort game from him. He'll be trying to do a lot. He'll be trying to do too much, in my opinion. I think that he'll throw two interceptions this game, one to one of our safeties, and I'm shouting out my guy Lil Jordan. I think he'll be the one to come up with an interception in our cornerback groups. And I think that Michael won this game with the second half. I think that I did hear some of the Bills, their press conferences leading up to the game, and I mean, obviously this would be the consistency around the league, but Josh Allen said verbatim that they always got to know where 11 is. So I think they're gonna the way with his ability to run, I think they'll kind of scheme some things away from Micah. If Josh Allen has to roll out, if Josh Allen has to buy some time, it'll be away from number 11. So, but I think that Micah, just being the game wrecker he is, I think that he'll still be able to come with the second half. In that Eagles game, the sack he got, I mean, he just no, I've never seen Lane Johnson get treated like that. And he was engaged with Micah the entire time, and just Micah drove straight through him to get that sack to Jalen Hurts. So I think with Micah being who he is, he'll definitely be able to disrupt that game. And I think overall we'll have 5 sacks and win the game 37-20. I think we'll be able. I think they'll score 2 touchdowns, and then we'll be able to hold them to 2 field goals.
But before we get out of here, I just have one more question for you. So they have two solid receivers, a really good one of the top receivers in the league, and then a very solid number two receiver, and we have some pretty solid corners. So what matchups would you do? Would you go Diggs Bland, or would you go Diggs Bland and then Gabe Davis and Stephon, or would you go Stephon on Stephon and then go Deron Bland on Gabe Davis,
Uh,
knowing that the last couple weeks Stephon Gilmore has been our better DB against the so-called quote unquote bigger receivers, which Gabe Davis is for that team.
Great question. I actually tweeted about this as well. It sucks that number 7 is not going to be here. We were absolutely robbed of the Diggs versus Diggs matchup, but silver lining on our team, we have guys that step up. So with Deron Bland stepping up, I feel like that gives us the opportunity for the Stephon versus Stephon matchup, because I think I would like to have Gilmore over there on him and have Deron Bland guard Gabe Davis. Although I think I definitely have always held Gabe Davis in a high regard. That's always been one, especially last year when it came to Josh Allen and Dak Prescott debate. So one thing I like to bring up was that Gabe Davis was a better number 2 receiver than Noah Brown was last year. And that's still,
Clearly,
I would still say that, but Gabe Davis, I still think that I might have overrated him in that sense, because because I've had him on my fantasy team, so that's more one of the reasons that I've looked at his stats week by week, and he hasn't had that great of a season. Even I feel like sometimes him and Josh Allen just aren't on the same page. It really showed its head in their Eagles game. They had a
mm,
open chance to win that game and just completely miscommunicated. Josh Allen thought Gabe Davis was breaking in. Gabe Davis broke out. I mean, both out and in were wide open. They just, like I said, weren't on the same page. So I feel like, with that being said, Gabe Davis is still a good receiver, but in terms of him being a gigantic threat to where we have to really be worried about what he's going to be able to do to us, I feel like I might have been overrating him at that, but I still think he's capable of having a good day. But that's why I would have Deron Bland on him, just to that way, if he is given those opportunities, we still have a top corner on him. But what about you? Who would you have out there on Diggs and Gabe Davis?
just just because I feel like Diggs does a lot of stop routes, a lot of crossers, and just because Deron Bland's probably a little bit faster, I'd probably put him on Stephon Diggs, as well as because Stephon Gilmore has had very solid back-to-back weeks against the quote unquote bigger receivers like Gabe Davis is. So I'd started out with Bland on Diggs and then Gilmore on Davis. But if it got to a point where one is cooking the other, then we'd have to switch. But that's the good thing about having multiple good corners. You have that luxury to switch. So I'm just gonna try to see how that goes. But I like the matchup, man. I'm really ready for the game tomorrow. We got the game of the week, of course, 3:30 game. Pretty excited. We said our biggest game of the year was last week against the Eagles, and it's gonna be this is now the biggest game of the year for us, and it's gonna continue to be like that because right now we don't 100% control our own destiny, but I feel like the Eagles for sure will lose another one, and hopefully the Niners can lose that Baltimore Ravens game. So if they do both end up losing one, then the ball 100% be in our court. We have a couple tough matchups coming here the next couple weeks, so we gotta control what we can control, and regardless of what they do, we need to try to win out 100%. That'll help with Dak getting his MVP, CD will get his All Pros. It'll help with everything. Clearly, that's not the end all be all. That's not our main goal, but that's definitely a big goal of ours. So we'll see what happens. But hey, that is another episode. Keep liking, keep commenting, keep subscribing, keep sharing. We're back with another episode after the Bills game. We'll give our recap as well as our preview to the next game against the Miami Dolphins. But like we said first, we got Josh Allen, which is still a very capable quarterback, regardless of how bad he's been playing, but how bad his turnovers have been. He's still very capable of being one of the best QBs in the league, scoring at a high volume. So we definitely can't take it for granted that he just hasn't played that well or playing, but because he can turn it on at in any time. He's shown it before, so definitely got to lock in on this game. But hey, take us out.
Well, I want to say one more thing before we get out of here. I just wanted to say that obviously for what this game means for this season, I want to win, but we haven't played Buffalo since that Thanksgiving game that we went to as a family. And I mean,
Oof.
if I've ever wanted revenge for a game, it was that one. I feel like that's the only game we've ever seen the Cowboys lose in person. And it was on Thanksgiving. And
Yeah,
that was actually kind of like a small coming out party for the Bills because the Bills weren't even looked at as a top team that at that point. Josh Allen,
no,
obviously, he was a younger quarterback, but he still was getting like people were still ranking him as elite based on his potential at the time. He was still looked at as a really good quarterback, and he came out and completely embarrassed us. They were mocking Dak's pregame dance on the sideline. They were mocking Zeke's feed me celebration. They just completely were trolling us, and so like I said, not only for what it means for this season, I definitely want them to get that get back for what they did to us on that Thanksgiving game. So, but like you said, that's another episode. Keep liking, sharing, and commenting. Keep supporting us. We bring these episodes out for you guys, and like I said, we're going to talk about the Cowboys regardless. So if you guys want to tune in, we'll be here for you. But I'm Orlando.
and I'm Omar,
We're the Smart Bros.
and this is the Smart Take. Hey.